Welcome to Steins Gate. In my opinion, the most amazing visual novel I have ever come across. I recorded this footage on my PS3, so it's not in full HD, it's in 720p. It should give you a very good experience of the original display, also how it would look on the Vita. If you've never played Steins Gate, but would like just a bit of a taster, then I think this prologue I'm playing now is really ideal for that. It doesn't give away too much, and certainly no major spoilers for what is to come later on in the story. If you want absolutely zero spoilers, then obviously this is not the video for you. And if you already do know Steins Gate, maybe there's nothing new I can tell you, but you might still enjoy my commentary. And here we are, the introductory animation scene, already showing the very distinctive art style of Steins Gate, which I think is one of the highlights that makes it such a special experience. We are briefly introduced to the main characters. As is the case with all my recordings, I don't have a script. I do not work to a script at all. What you're getting is simply my fresh and very immediate commentary off the top of my head, so to speak. Now, what I want to concentrate on with this prologue today is the detail in Steins Gate, because I think it is absolutely crucial. And it's very easy to play the game and miss a lot of the detail, and therefore the build-up of depth that you experience with this game. And here we are, the start menu. I'm just quickly going through the options. I always set my message speed to fast so that the whole text appears instantly. I'm a very fast reader, and I'm assuming that you will read along. I won't read out many of the lines.
Everything だがその偶然はあらかじめ決められていた世界の意志でもあった。俺はイカれてなどいない。至って正常だ。ここでは真実を語っているんであって、断じて中二病の妄想なんかじゃない。きっかけはほんの些細なことだとしても、それが未来の大きな流れを決定づけてしまうこともある。バタフライ効果という言葉を知っているか？知らないなら調べるのだ。それぐらいの慎重さが求められているのだということを理解しろ。残念ながら俺は慎重じゃなかった。自分の愚かさを分かっていたらあいつを失うことになんてならなかった。未来をこんな形にしてしまうなんてこともなかった。分かるはずがないだろう。その瞬間の自分の手に人類全ての運命を決定づけるような重大なターニングポイントのスイッチが握られているなんていうことは分かるはずがないんだ。考えてもみるがいい。普段の人間の知覚は 99% が遮断されている。人は自分で思っている以上に愚鈍な生き物なんだよ。普段の生活の中に埋もれている何気ないことなど気にも留めないし、知覚したとしてもすぐに忘れるか脳が処理をしないかのどちらかなんだ。あの時の俺に言ってやりたい。迂闊なことをするなと、軽率なことをするなと、見て見ぬふりをするなと、もっと注意を払えと。陰謀の魔の手は思った以上にずっと身近になって、いつでもお前を陥れようと手ぐすね引いているのだと。
So our protagonist, Okabe Rentaro, tells us, pay attention. However trivial something may be, it may be of great significance. And that applies to how we should be playing this game.
最も愚かであるの。歴史からも読み取れる。海に生ける魚は陸の世界を知らない。彼らが英知を持てばそれもまた滅びゆく。人間が光の速さを超えるのは魚たちが陸で生活を始めるよりも滑稽。これは抗える者たちに対する神からの最後通告とも言える。
And the first thing we see is an old-style cell phone. Cell phones are incredibly important in Steins Gate. And straight away we see that Okabe, or Okarin as he's called, lives in a fantasy world of conspiracy.
Yeah, こちらの話だ。問題ない。これより会場に潜入する。
It's like he's playing some kind of game.
聞かせてもらうつもりさ。何？機関が動き出しているだと。
the organization. Some nebulous organization, probably a huge threat to mankind.
それがシュタインズゲートの全て。
And his signature phrase, El Psi Congru. It's like a sort of secret handshake. You can look up under the tips any of the highlighted words. In fact, you need to do it for going through the game if you want to get all the trophies or achievements. And sometimes these tips are reasonably informative, and sometimes they're also very humorous. And it's just as well to save frequently. Steins Gate provides a good number of save slots, and you will need them all. So we're wondering at this stage what kind of infiltration he's talking about. Like an average person. I mean, this is where the humour really becomes very obvious in the writing. Occurrence sees himself clearly as not an average person.
さっき携帯で誰と話してたの?
He's obviously not very fit. Yes, who would have thought?
聞くな。それが真由里のためでもある。
あ、そうなんだ。オカリン、ありがとう。
She's not at all fazed by that. You'll find out later she's quite used to him. In fact, they have a very special relationship that only becomes apparent much, much further into the game. So we don't quite know whether that too is part of his fantasy or whether there's some real danger lurking there. So now we see what it is that Occurrence came for, and it's a press conference on the subject of a time machine.
それより、オカリン、オカリン。
真由里よ、いつも言っているだろう。俺のことをオカリンと呼ぶなと。
He doesn't like to be called by a common nickname.
それは昔の話だ。今の俺は法院教魔。世界中の秘密組織から狙われる。
And there's that signature crazy scientist laugh at the end, and the impossible name he has invented for himself. All, of course, hallmarks for a possibly completely mentally deranged person. But as we've already gathered, he is completely wrapped up in his fantasy. He's working very hard at establishing it.
だって難しくて覚えられないし。それに岡部倫太郎と一文字も合ってないよ。おかしいね。
Cease your foolish laughter. He likes to speak in a sort of deliberately archaic manner.
でね、オカリン、 教えてほしいんだけど。
So the true name is here clearly associated with the Japanese term chunibyu, and we'll come across that again later. Okarin is being quite clearly associated in his manners and his outlook with an 11 or 12-year-old middle schooler who has, you know, flights of delusions of grandeur and fantasies as a hero. Mayuri has a very childlike manner, but she often has a way of asking a direct question that hits the nail on the head.
Makitokage? あ、それを言うならエリマキトカゲだね。
マユリ、気をつけろ。おそらくこの記者会見、何らかの事件が起き。
マグニチュードに？震度とマグニチュードってどう違うんだっけ？
爆発だと？なんだこれは。
記者会見は予定通り始めますので、もうしばらくお待ちください。
俺は匂う陰謀の匂いだ。何を隠したいんだ。さっきの爆発は何だ。
And if you thought the first 15 minutes or so were a bit slow and nothing much happening, well, this is where it all starts. Birthplace of the Japanese PC, nice touch. And this is a scene in particular that I want to draw your attention to. It is one of my favourite scenes in Steins Gate, and this is where pay attention to the detail becomes really important. One reason why Steins Gate is such an exceptional visual novel is that the writing is, to my mind, basically flawless throughout. The writers have taken to heart the old adage, show, not tell. We get to know the characters through their dialogue and their behaviour. We are never being told in exposition what's happening, what the significance is, what we should be thinking, how somebody is, what type of person they are. No, everything is revealed through the action of the characters, through the words they speak. This scene especially, I think, highlights that so very well.
何かが起こっている。ああ、分かってる。無茶はしないぞ。俺も命は惜しいからな。エル、プサイ、コングル。
And again, we realize that Okabe is talking into the phone, living his conspiracy, his grand adventure as a mad scientist.
Mayuri, 何をしている？
あのね、ウーパが欲しいなって。And I like these little commentaries in the tips section. Yes, teaching the children about the internet, morality, copyright, etc. And Mayuri wants one of those little capsule toys. It's called an UPA. And I've shown you the one from my figure. She's being her usual childlike self. As Okabe said, not really bothered by the explosion, and far more focused on trying to get that little gacha toy. Ugly cute, yes. The frog character, by the way, the ugly frog character, pops up in one of the other games.
in the science adventure series called Chaos Child, which I also made a video about.
ではマユリにくれてやろう。
And this is one of the brilliant little touches in Steins Gate. Mayuri refers to herself by a nickname, Mayushi, and she refers to herself in the third person. And that's something that children often do. But she is a grown-up woman. She's 17 years old. She's physically completely developed.
どうやら始まるようだな。行くぞ、マユリ。
And he's trying to show her that you can't just get the toy you want by just putting 100 yen in the slot. And guess what happens? It's a metal Upa. And we may think that this is just an endearing little scene in Steins Gate, showing us something about the characters. But as I said, every detail matters. And you need to remember this because it becomes really, really important much later on. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't find his portrait particularly appealing as a person.
ここに集まってもらった諸君だけに人類史に残る世紀の大発明タイムマシンについての理論をお教えしよう。
タイムマシン？あの人が作ったの？
So she feels the need to write her name on that little Upa toy. And once again, it's just one short moment. And in a novel that might last you anywhere between 40 and 60 hours easily, you could be forgiven for not remembering this much later on.
バカにするにも程があるぞ。
なんだね君は。
俺が誰なのかはどうでもいい。より今あなたが語ったタイムマシンの理論は一体何だ。ジョン・タイターのパクリではないか。あなたはそれでも発明家か。
誰かその男をつまみ出せ。
So here we come for the very first time across the name of John Titor. And it's quite clear from the entry, if you read it, that this is a significant detail. And this is a typical occurring moment. Now this is getting very heated here. Unhand me. This is typical speech from Okabe. I think we can safely call him very theatrical. And there she is. At this stage, this all doesn't seem to make an awful lot of sense and just seems like disjointed pieces of information, and very strange ones. But that's the nature of Steins Gate, that you slowly piece together a puzzle. And then the puzzle comes unstuck and you have to start all over again and refit the pieces in a different order. And that is one reason why you do need a lot of save files. I remember when I played through for the first time, I think I used all the available ones, which is I think 60, and once I'd used them up I had to resort to reusing some as well. We can even read some of the text written in that article, clearly indicating what research she's into. And straight away we see that Okabe is somewhat intimidated by her. He sees her as a genius and probably with some resentment himself as not a recognized genius.
ここまで手が回っているとは俺としたことが
ふざけてないでちょっと来てください。
え
Yes, it must be mortifying to be exposed as a fraud by a bright young man like myself. Yes, always remember the poor ignorant civilians.
「ここで俺に何かすれば人目につくぞ。そうなれば貴様もいろいろまずいだろう。
何かって何ですか？人聞きの悪い。
Yes, he's really fully living out his secret agent fantasy now. Of course, Kurisu has no idea, of course, what he's talking about.
私はあなたに聞きたいことがあるだけです。
それに答える義理はない。
There's just so much irony and humour
だから
in a lot of the dialogue, or in this case, interior monologue for Okabe. We understand, of course, that most of this is some kind of facade he's putting up.
何をする
あれ
She's too fast for him,
電源切れてる。
and she, of course, recognizes straight
誰と
away
話していたんですか？
that there was no connection. He's been talking to himself.
貴様に答える義理はないが一応教えてやろう。それは俺以外が触ると自動的に電源がオフになる。
And we realize straight away that these two are incredibly well matched. If this was a 100% romantic story, they would be fighting and then they would fall in love.
Yes, he's getting desperate now.
さっき私に何を言おうとしたんですか？
さっきとはいつのことだ？
ほんの15分くらい前、会見が始まる前に。私に何か言おうとしましたよね。すごく悲しそうな顔をして、まるで今にも泣き出しそうで、それにすごくどうして？私
Now, this is the first time in the story that we've had any inkling of something weird, strange happening, as Shakespeare put it, time out of joint. Makise Kurisu is not someone who would invent an odd story like this, so we realise something unusual is happening here.
そういえば、なんで私の名前知ってるんです？
俺は全てお見通しなのだ。
That's his logic, yes. She seems sincere. He can see that. But then he falls straight back into his fantasy.
機関目。あれほどのエージェントを送り込んでくるとは、ついに本気になったようだな。だが、俺はまだ奴らに捕まるわ
And
けにはい
that
かん
is his theatrical exit. Hmm.
ちー、マユリを置いてきた。メールか？
Emails become incredibly important later on. They're the main method of the game progressing along different paths as you make choices as to which email to read and reply to.
「マユリ、なぜ出ない？」まさかマキセ・クリスメ、おのれ、それが機関のやり方か。
And needless to say, that mystery email will of course prove important. Can he seriously be thinking that? He might get himself so worked up, I suppose.
戻るしかないか。 あの女、俺におじけづいたか。よかろう。今日のところは見逃してやるとしよう。まゆり、なぜ電話に出ない？そろそろ。
おかり、メタルウーパがいなくなっちゃった。
いなくなった？勝手に動き出したのか？
落としたみたい。
Her metal Upa ran away. That's just how a child would talk. She is seriously upset about it.
当たりっこないよ。だってね、メタルウーパはネットオークションで1万円近い。
Oh no, she can't. This is the one Upa.
まゆりよ、一体どこで落としたのだ？
わかんないから探してるんだよ。あと見つけても売らないからね。
その1万円、この俺の研究資金にしてやる。
だから売らないってば。マユシーの名前書いちゃったし。ウーパさん、ウーパさん、出ておいで。
And we find out through this a little exchange that Okabe is seriously short of cash. And whatever he's doing in his lab, he is struggling to finance it. Tuturu is Maori's catchphrase. Now this is very funny, you have to agree, since he himself really lusts after the money himself. It's a very rhetorical sentence. Yes. Touché. Maori is a strange mixture of childishness and perception and insight.
Mayuri, ここにいろ。
And here I just want to warn you that a rather distressing scene is coming up, so if you don't like that sort of thing, you might want to just skip this.
なんで？
And with just one flick of fate, the story has turned into a very a different and much darker direction.
警察を呼べ。
オカリどうしたの？
出るぞ。
Somehow we don't believe that he is cold and emotionless like that.
Neえ、何があったの？顔色すごく悪いけど。
人が
Just another day in Akihabara. Okabe has more insight into human psychology than he lets on with all his fantasy behaviour. And this is one of those moments that gives us a bit of foreshadowing, although it would be hard to recognise, of course, at this stage, this early on. One of the great things about Steins Gate is that we see everything through Okabe's eyes, through his perspective. He would have to be called, certainly at this stage, what is usually termed an unreliable narrator. This means we, the viewers and readers, need to negotiate a whole set of different parameters, including what exactly he might mean, how real or unreal is his fantasy, has he got a grasp on the situation, is he telling us the truth? The other character so far we've got is Mayuri, who is very childish by nature, so again not a totally reliable narrator. So now we will be introduced to the next major character, and that is his friend Daru, the computer specialist, the hacker. Throughout the whole of Steins Gate, we are constantly asking ourselves, is this really what happened? What if I look at it from a different perspective? And that's of course exactly what the story wants us to do. It results in what I would call a many-faceted story of great depth. There's further depth in the psychological insights it grants us. And that was the prologue. And as you can see, beginning of chapter 1. So here we are at the laboratory set up by Okabe, and the investigation starts in earnest. A typical Okabe Rintaro moment. And this exemplifies what I've just been talking about. We don't know whether we can trust Okabe's brain and perception. What is he seeing? Is this really what is there? What on earth has happened? If you want to find out what happens, you will have to play the game for yourself. And I really, really highly recommend it. If you've made it through this far and you're intrigued, maybe even gripped, don't let it pass you by.